I want to just go right into like kind of the origins of you getting into comedy and then starting Nutt Street Club.
Sure.
So just tell us a little bit about that journey, like what got you into stand up, what got you to start, and then what led you to opening up the club. And what year was that you started the club again?
I think it was 09,
Okay.
08.
Yeah.
08, 09. I think 09. That's kind of what I've landed on. But yeah. So before that though, there was no comedy in town at all. Like there were no other comics that I knew of, you know? And then one day I had heard about the Juggling Gypsy, which is now Barzar. I don't know why he changed the name.
Yeah, you can't say Gypsy. We're gonna have to bleep that out.
Really?
Yeah, that's why. That's why it was changed.
Is that? Yeah, there's some. Got to be some sort of reason why he changed it. But I meant to ask him, but I keep forgetting. But they were having an open mic, and I don't even think it was supposed to be comedy, but it just kind of evolved into a comedy open mic.
Yeah.
And it's something I always wanted to do. Never really had the guts to do it. But decided to go down there, and it was 3 minutes. That's what they were requiring, 3 minutes of comedy. And got there. I was like, you've been there. You get there on time, and it's you and the bartender.
Yes.
And no one shows up till like an hour and a half, 2 hours later.
Yes.
I don't know. It's always been like that. But so I get there, and it's me and the bartender, and just an empty room. Never been there before. Kind of freaking out. Just started, nerves got to me. So I got in the car, drove back to my house, which wasn't that far at the time, and got in the driveway and was getting ready to get out of the car. And I just told myself, if you don't do it now, you're probably never going to do it. So I went down and did 3 minutes. Had no idea how I was going to get through it. That seems like forever when you're first starting out. Yeah. And did it. Had a good time. Next time I went up, I did 20. Or thought I could do 20.
And you crushed it, obviously, right?
It was like, no, it was it was a long 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those where like, I did 3. Of course I can jump to 20. No problem.
Yeah.
That's got to be a natural progression, right? But now I know different. But then, so just me and I met another guy who, Matt Ward, who was interested in starting some comedy, and Nick Shaheen, trying to think, there was Brooklyn, I can't remember her last name for some reason, Brooklyn Green, and a dude that owned a Subway shop, John, owned a Subway shop in Carolina Beach. And so we were like the 5 people that kind of started hanging out together. Yeah. And I ran into a friend of mine that owned the Soapbox about a year later. And we were all doing, Matt Ward was kind of putting together all these little one-nighters everywhere. And we would go and just completely destroy the energy at whatever place we were at, because none of us were any good at all. Yeah. And all, it was just, no one was expecting comedy, and we would just show up and turn off an ACC game. And like, I'm
sure people love that.
I remember one time we shut off, or the bar shut off a semifinal game between Carolina and State.
Oh God.
And then for us to do comedy. It was a sports bar. Oh my God. Shit. Oh, it was horrible. They did not like us at all. So we would just do one-nighters everywhere around town, about once every quarter, 2 months here and there. And then I ran into a friend of mine on the Soapbox, and convinced him to let us do a open mic night. Yeah. And started it out, and I don't know, it was about 6 months later, it started getting some legs underneath it, and people coming out, and like 100 people will come out just to watch it. Yeah. And then for some reason, the holidays rolled around, and then we didn't do it November and December, and started back up in January, and it was like the whole town had forgotten that it was even a thing. Yeah. And then he had this basement bar. It was a basement. He had a bar down there, but it wasn't really doing anything. And I asked him if I could take the mic downstairs. And so went down there. He stocked the bar with booze. There were no bartenders. So I told him I'd bartend, because I had bartended before years ago. And I told him I'd bartend it and would run an open mic. And so I did that for like a year. And over the course of that year, it literally just picked up really heavy steam. And so a year later, and I always tell people that start mics, it takes a year for it to get a foundation.
Yeah.
You know, if it's good. If it's not good, it'll never get off the ground.
Yeah.
So about a year into it, it was 100 people every night. And not only that, a lot of people that were coming down there to see what this, you know, because it had gotten around town that, like, you know, the new place to go was Nutt Street. And it was I started it out on a Thursday night open mic, and that's all it was, just a Thursday night. And it got just word around town, just spread, and people would come down there. And as they would come down there, I get people coming up to me at the bar and going, "Hey, you know, I've always wanted to try this." And I was always encouraging, and because we needed comics.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Absolutely, man. Just next week, come up. You know, it's 4 minutes. It's always been 4 minutes. I never gave anybody. I gave a traveling comic one time 5 minutes. Even Bill Burr, when he came in, I gave him 4 minutes.
Wow.
I don't think he blew the light. I think he was pretty cool about it. But which I thought was awesome when he did that anyway.
Yeah.
But so it just became a thing. And then I started you know, gathering comics that way. And then that was like you know, Marcinowski and Colton and people like that were still in high school, like coming out, you know, and just Zach Burke, who was coming from East Carolina, like he was literally going to school Monday through Friday, or Monday through Wednesday. He would drive in on Thursday for open mic and go back to class on Friday.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was awesome. It was a great thing to watch.
Yeah.
Just to watch him like get up on stage and progress. And then, you know, it was about a year later, he got his first laugh.
Once he started wearing the 3-piece suit,
man, I'm telling you that Zach Burke, I told him this, I think New Year's weekend when I was when I was pretty hammered. But I told him, I was like, he's literally one of my favorite comics, because he literally came down there for a year.
Yeah, that's dedication to make that drive for a year.
Never got a laugh.
Yeah, and that's extra dedication.
And I'm not saying that to be an ass.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because I was only one bartender, so I would bartend, and I was hosting too. That was another thing. I would be at the bar, and I would run up on stage, introduce the comic, come back to the bar, and serve people. And when it got super busy, you know, to where like, I remember one night it was so packed in there at an open mic. I turned, I don't know, maybe to Colton or Marcinowski, and I was like, I can't do both.
Yeah.
You got to host. And that was the first time that I started like letting other people host the shows. But yeah, he came down for a year, dude. And I remember that night he was sitting there and he said something on stage, and the room it was like it was a packed house. It erupted. And these people that were coming down there, they weren't like, there were some new people, but for the most part, it was 100 regulars.
Yeah.
Every week. Sometimes it was like 140 in there. It was packed. But anyway. And when he got that first laugh, dude, I was as happy for him as I could have been for myself getting, you know, that first laugh. It was so fun to watch. But but anyway, so once the Thursday night was like that, my friend Brent Watkins, who owned the Soapbox, we decided to start asking weekend people, and this is back when MySpace was the only thing online. So I would go to MySpace and find comedians. Like I found Rory Scovel on there. I mean, I didn't discover Rory. I just found him as a comic and invited him to come,
right,
you know, do the room and stuff. And so that's how I would find people. And then when they would come in, like Dave Waite came in, and I would ask Dave, whoever the headliner was that weekend, and we started out with one show on Friday, one show on Saturday, and could not get an audience for that at all for another year. Like I remember I would be bartending and I would go up to the street and bark free tickets, free tickets.
Yeah.
And the budget wasn't that much for the comics. And so they would come in, have a good weekend, always got paid, no matter if we lost money or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of like started building an audience like that. But then I would ask them, who are your favorites? And then they would tell me their favorites. And so then I would get their contacts, invite them in.
A little referral system.
That's how I built the business. It was all referral. Literally every comic that came in for like the first couple of years was a referral from a comic that I put on stage. And they didn't come in. If I looked at them, I didn't think they fit the room, I wouldn't invite them. But I would like get a handful of like Dave would be like, okay, you can do Dave Stone and Joe Zimmerman. They're really cool cats. And then I had known Joe from Asheville comedy scene already, so I invited him in, and Joe's always got like, he's just a nice dude.
Yeah.
So everybody likes him, so he's going to always give good references. And so it was just a referral system. And then it became two shows on Friday, two shows on Saturday. And then once that started, it just became a thing, and it was always packed. It was the craziest energy. And then I added improv on Wednesday nights. Dave was part of the group too, but Dave DeMiro. But people would come in, and Colton, and Marcinowski were on the improv troupe. They just wanted to be there more. Like they were already there Thursday, Friday. The comics would hang out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every week.
Yeah.
Every year, all week long, and they wanted to be there more, and they wanted to do a Wednesday, so they would come in and do. It was like one giant fraternity that just did not go away.
Yes,
it was crazy until it closed.
Yes, I can definitely attest to, because that first iteration of Nutt Street, I only got to experience for just a little under a year, because I came in September of 2012 and then had to close down in 2013 that summer.
Right.
But I can definitely attest to, out of all the rooms I've been in, the energy in there is so intimate and electric, and the community that I came into there, it really did. It felt like this family, this brotherhood, this fraternity.
Yeah.
And it really was like just the best group of friends to have. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No. I built it like that.
Yes.
And I built it like that because the group that I was with before, me and Matt and John and Brooklyn and I can't remember who else. Dave DeMiro would get up once in a while, but for whatever reason, and it happens in a lot of scenes, and I wouldn't call it animosity, and I wouldn't really call it competition, but we were all just kind of like figuring out who we were.
Yes.
And since I kind of started it, even though Matt was running, literally anytime we went out of town, it takes somebody to be that person.
Yes.
And I'm not the out of town guy. I don't create shows out of town. You know, that's a whole different type of salesmanship that it's not ingrained in me.
Yes.
But I'll show up, and we'll have a good time. But so Matt was running all the out of town stuff, but for some reason I kind of became like, and maybe it was because I was older. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I became like the person people would go and make suggestions to, or ask, could I talk to another comic about, subject matter, or just things they were saying on stage that person really didn't feel comfortable with, and it didn't happen a lot, but it just kind of, and then I made the mistake one time of, I'll go talk to him, and so I went and talked to another comic about it, and it became a huge riff we weren't that big of a group. We were 6 people deep at best, And it became a thing. And then so like when I started Nutt Street, I was not gonna have that competitive seed. I don't mind you being competitive.
Yeah,
but you can be competitive, right? Competitively,
yes.
But don't like it's. Everyone has to raise everybody else up. I wasn't gonna tolerate any kind of like shit talking about people or trying to like, oh, they're doing this and I don't like it, and it's like, you know, I'm not a babysitter.
Yeah.
But also, too, I'm not going to tolerate the animosity.
Yeah, I definitely felt that, too. And why I felt like that energy in the community, particularly within Nutt Street, it was this, of course, like these groups of comics, like just across the world,
sure,
they have that energy of like, they're going to rib on you and fucking talk shit and that kind of thing.
Right.
But, and there's plenty of scenes where this animosity that you're talking about it's very prevalent. It's the case for most comedy scenes.
Right.
But I do like, and I didn't know, I took this for granted because I didn't know anything outside of it. But I definitely feel like that kind of thing that you're talking about, as soon as it would arise from like someone in the group, it would just nipped in the bud from the culture.
Sure.
And all that ribbing, it just felt like it was encased in love. Like it was encased like, you're my brother. I'm picking on you because I love you.
Right.
It never felt like there was this deeper resentful animosity anywhere in there. I know a
lot of larger places, like, you know, like say New York or LA or even Atlanta. Like that's a larger market. People are more cutthroat there because there are people that are gonna see you perform, and they do have things to offer, like TV pilots, or, you know, they're an agent, or, you know, and so you're constantly like trying to like
there is competition for high stakes. I mean, like it's career and money and that kind of thing.
And here, even though that we do have a film industry here, and I have had people come in before and ask me who that person is on stage from, you know, film production stuff. But I'm like, there's not enough people. We're going to be better comedians and have a better scene if we are supportive of each other.
Yes.
And so I would go, and I never, you know, I wouldn't tell people this, but I would go to people, unbeknownst to other comics, and talk to them about, you know, hey, you know, give them some advice. Or I tried to mentor as many people as I could, regardless of where they were in their career, or if they were just doing it a hobby, or, you know, if they made a subtle mistake on stage that, you know, it's unwritten rule you don't do. Like you don't do jokes after headliners, like shit like that, you know. Like if the headliner gets off stage, don't go up there and try to do another 3 minutes.
Right.
You know, it's like you just took away everything that person, you know, had gotten to. But anyway, and I don't know. I felt like if I did it in private, and the other comics didn't realize it was happening, that I could kind of like help everybody to, you know, just be supportive. It's so much. That's why we have such a great scene. Comics used to come in here all the time off the road and not be used to this. Yeah. And they would come in, like I would say, come in on Thursday. And they're like, what's Thursday? I was like, it's an open mic. I'm not doing open mics. Because where they're from, open mics suck.
Right, right.
And they would come in and it'd be 100 people, 120 people. And then
I've never seen anything like it.
40 comics.
Yeah.
You know, and the energy is absolutely off the charts.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a fucking open mic? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, dude. It's like, this is a show. I said, I know, but it's not a show. We don't, no ticket charge. It's just people, you know, we're selling fun, basically. And it's just, they couldn't believe it. But it is. I mean, I've gone to other scenes and, you know, you can't get stage time. You can't even get people to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because they're so cliquey.
Yes.
And that's fine. You know, that's their scene. But I felt like when people would come here, we would invite them in, you know, like the people that come from Greenville or Raleigh, or, you know, it was like, oh yeah, you're a part of us. Whatever's coming in the room, they're a part of us for the night.
Yeah.
So, but that's how the whole thing started. And then it became too big to ignore. And it just became a comedy club.
Yeah, it was so cool, especially like in that time I got to experience Nutt Street, and then I mean certainly even at the last Dead Crow, like the basement version of it, those nights where it was so packed for the open mic that people were standing on the stairs waiting for a seat to open up. I mean,
isn't that weird?
That's
dude?
incredible. That's incredible.
They would sit on the stairs.
Yeah. And then speaking of like the competition within that Nutt Street culture too, like that competition felt like, you know, you go to the open mic and fucking like Bishop or Steve would just like crush it one week.
Right.
And it was like, but it like, you know, there was like this little tinge of like, damn, like I didn't do it that well, but like it drove you to do better next week.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, and then Zach would come crush it next week. And it was this very friendly competition, this supportive competition, and people would pass along each other notes and stuff. I remember at Bar Czar one night, you know, very early into starting, I had some dumb Grand Theft Auto joke, and then it went okay, and then Colton came up to me later and he had like a little piece of paper with notes on it. It's the first time I ever got notes from someone, and they were actually like helpful.
Right.
And yeah, I totally like miss that.
Yeah.
So I want to get into now we've built up the story of like how amazing this place was.
Sure.
And it was part of the Soapbox, you know, this 3-story building where like the basement's Nutt Street, and then the middle story is a music venue, and then the upper story is a music venue. I vaguely remember something happening. Like I don't really know the details of something like bank foreclosure, something with the building. Talk about why Nutt Street along with the Soapbox had to end up closing in 2013.
Well, and I can't speak on behalf of this. I don't know the ins and outs of the Soapbox
fair
side
enough.
of it.
Speak on whatever you're able to.
I just know that the bank called the note basically for whatever reason. It was also like 2009 there was the crash, the market crash. Could have had something to do with that. I have no idea. But I just remember, Brent kind of came to me and said, we're going to have to shut down the whole building kind of thing. And it was deflating in that, I got it, because I had owned businesses before, like construction, painting business, window cleaning business, stuff like that. When it's time to shut down, it's just time to shut down. Yeah. And so the deflating part for me was having, I had to have a meeting with you guys and just kind of let everybody know that the place that they were coming to and counting on and supporting week after week was, not going to be a thing anymore. So we had that one last show, Ben Roy.
Yep. That was the first time I got to open.
Closed down. Oh, was it?
Yeah. You were like, it's the last weekend. You haven't opened yet. I'm going to let you open on this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What a good dude.
Yeah. You're a good dude.
That's what. I was patting myself on the
back. What a good dude.
Well, that's the way I tried to operate the whole thing, dude. Like even when I was bartending and we were starting out, and I don't mean to go backwards, but
perfectly fine.
I would people were having fun on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night, a couple, and they're sitting at the bar and their first time down there, and they're just like, "What is this place?" And I'm like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And they're like, "Well, we don't have any plans on Saturday." I said, "Well, here's free tickets to the comedy show." And I mean, that was the fun part for me. It was like I was giving away fun.
Yes.
And I knew 100% that when you came here, it was gonna be fun, no matter what. And that's just that weird energy that spot had. Which I'm glad I lived through it. I wish I could recreate it.
Yeah. I wish you could too. I wish I could help you recreate it.
Yeah. It's just a weird, it's just it was a whole different, it was almost like everybody was just hungry and we were all friends and, we, like you said, we're supportive. You never knew who was going to be on stage and knock it out of the park for an open mic. Like you could have some random person come up that had never done comedy before and be the best one of the night, and we loved it. We all just sat back there and just had a blast. But anyway, we, as far as when it shut down, I don't know the business side of it. Cause I was just, like I said, I'm more of just a face,
right?
Shake hands and kiss babies type, owner at the time. And so, I just knew it was dissolving, right. And we just had to figure out what we were going to do next.
Yeah, pretty much. You got word from higher up that this is the case. Nothing we can do about it. Go
and
inform your people.
It was like a 2-week notice. It was
quick.
Or a week,
it was very quick.
A week or something like that.
I remember being in that meeting. It was pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then we had roughly a year and
Here
a half.
again, we keep circling back to that year.
Yeah.
It takes a year to do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when that thing closed down, me and my family, my wife and 2 kids went down to Florida to visit my mom, their grandmother. And my phone was blowing up like the whole weekend that we were gone, the whole 4 or 5 days. And it was like, I felt like it was every club owner, bar owner downtown, restaurant asking me to bring that club to their spot. But for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Like it was just more money. It was money. They were after the
money.
Yeah. And they were like, how did you create that energy? And I was like, I didn't do that by myself. That was just, the people that came there. That's what created the energy. But they wanted the money part of it, and nothing against that. I mean, business is business. But then Ray and John from the Real Cafe hit me up, and they were like, we got a second floor that we never use, and except for functions once in a while, it's just sitting there. You can come in and you can just have free reign. I'll provide the staff, and you just do whatever it is you want to do. And so I went with the Real Cafe. I moved it to the Real Cafe, and we were there for about a year, actually. So it was shut down for the actual comedy club was shut down for a year, but the Real Cafe, we moved the comedy club to the Real Cafe second floor. Only because they were good people, and I knew that their heart was in for, they wanted to make money for sure.
Yeah.
And we brought them every week, hundreds of people, because we took that energy and we had like a couple weeks off, and then we took that energy to their room, and it became a really cool spot to be at. I mean, people loved it,
Yeah, I enjoyed when we did it at City Stage briefly, and then when we went to Real.
Yeah, Ian, who's passed away now, but him and he said we could use that spot for big shows and everything. So we just kind of left it at the Real for a while, and then Cole came to me. Cole, who owns Dead Crow now, he came to me. He's like, "Hey, if you want to open it up, let's figure it out." And the basement, it's funny. The basement that we opened that one up in is the same stage wall as the original club.
Yeah,
it's just on the other side.
Yeah.
Of it. The footprint is exactly the same. The capacity is exactly the same. So we just moved the club from one room of that building to the other one.
Yeah.
And so we, Cole, if it hadn't been for Cole, for like having the desire to like want to make it a brick and mortar again, it wouldn't be around. There's no way, because I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
I didn't have the capital to do it, and him and his family were willing to invest in it, and he was actually owner of the Soapbox, a small partner. So it was kind of like keeping it in the family at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we had to change the name.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that. So I know you, for some reason, you couldn't continue using Nutt Street.
Right.
And then you ended up coming up with Dead Crow, and I believe I've heard that you got this from a dream.
No. So Nutt
just
Street.
Just a
myth. The Nutt Street, I named it that, and people would always give me shit about it. Like, when I was talking to agents or comics, they're like, "Oh, the yuck."
Yeah, might as well call it Cum Street. Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude. There's literally Nutt Street runs right behind the bar in the alley. It's an alley now, but it's Nutt Street, still is.
Yeah.
And that's where it's located. the back entrance, and so that's what the name. It just was.
That's on you, buddy, for being jizz obsessed.
It was It was jizz and. Did you say jizz incest?
I said jizz obsessed.
Oh, I thought you said jizz incest. I was like, whoa, dude.
Jizz incest.
You took that to a whole
let's take you there.
new level. But yeah, so when we went to reopen, the name wasn't available.
Yeah.
Again. So we decided to rename it, and I had this production company called Dead Crow Productions, which was like a little film attempt, a little production company that I attempted years ago, because I'm a world famous actor, and all actors want to produce their own shit for some reason because they can't get roles. That's why, because you can't get roles. So you put yourself in your own roles. But anyway, I had a production company called Dead Crow, and I just decided that would be a good name for the club. And the Dead Crow came from when I was a kid. My dad used to, ever since he was a kid, he used to collect weird animals and keep them. Like he had a fox. Like we had a stuffed fox in our house forever. But we had a chicken coop. We lived on a tobacco farm. We had a chicken coop out back, and on top of the chicken coop, he kept a crow in a wooden cage, and the crow would keep the fox and stuff away from the chickens. And so when the crow died, it just made sense to call it a dead crow, and so that's how the name Dead Crow came up for my childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people think it's because The Crow was filmed here in Wilmington.
Yeah, so I've heard that rumor, and I've heard that you say that's not true. But
that's not true.
Yeah, someone. I feel like a number of people told me, like, yeah, Timmy says it was from a dream, and he's not willing to talk about it. I'm like, it's very Timmy.
Yeah. No, well, I'm kind of glad that I'm so mysterious that people have they talk about me and all my weird quirks.
Yeah, you're like a mysterious, chill Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah,
a mentor of the scene.
But yeah, the actual name comes from a crow that my dad used to keep on the chicken coop.
Yeah,
that was dead one day.
Yeah.